Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn hosted by Wavelogix. I'm Suzanne Florick, and I'll be your host today. We're really glad you're here. Today's session features someone who knows concrete like no one else, Ross Armstrong, and we're excited to hear what he has to share. Before we jump in, a couple of quick housekeeping notes to help you get the most out of the webinar. First, we're recording this session, so don't worry if you miss anything. We'll send out the recording and any slides afterwards. For the best review, we recommend using Speaker View. You can toggle that in the top right corner of your Zoom screen. If you've got questions during the session, just pop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A at the end. And if you run into any tech issues, drop us a note in the chat. Someone from our team is standing by to help. Let's start with a quick intro to Wavelogix and today's speakers. Wavelogix was founded in 2021 in partnership with INDOT and Purdue University. Our goal? To make roads and bridges more reliable and less disruptive to build. Our flagship product is the Rebel Concrete Strength Sensing System. It gives you real-time, in-place concrete strength data without needing maturity curves, and it works across all kinds of projects. That means better accuracy, better scheduling, and real savings. Now, let me introduce Joe Turek, our president and COO. Joe earned his electrical engineering degree from Notre Dame and his MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern. He's been in manufacturing his whole career, holds 5 patents in microwave telecom tech, and is a licensed professional engineer. Basically, he knows how to build things that work. Ross brings us over 30 years of experience in concrete quality control and assurance. Since 2002, he's led QC and QA at Southern Concrete Products and West Tennessee Ready Mix, overseeing quality for operations across the West Tennessee and Western Kentucky area. Before that, he held senior QC roles at MMC Material and Kuhn Industries, always known for his leadership and deep technical know-how. He's certified by the NRMCA as a concrete sales pro and by ACI as a flat work technician. He's got testing and inspection certs across 8 states: Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, including advanced levels 1, 2, and 3. The man knows concrete. He's also served on the board of the Tennessee Concrete Association in 2005 and 2006. With his mix of field experience, technical insight, and dedication to quality, Ross is one of the most trusted voices in concrete in the Mid-South. Please help me welcome Ross Armstrong. All right, let's dive in. Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Suzanne. Great introduction. Ross, really excited about having you on our webinar this month. You're one of our longest users and most loyal people working with the product and helping us develop it even better. But before we get into the product and its use, just a little bit about your background. You've got such an interesting experience, and what a nice intro by Suzanne about what you've done. But tell us a little bit about how you got into QC and what you've seen changing over the years, and kind of how you manage all the facilities that you're running.
Well, I got into the business in 1985. I was helping do layout work at Roanoke Airport in Virginia. Uh, the boss came to me. They didn't have anybody to do concrete testing, and he asked me if I'd be willing to learn. Well, of course, I didn't know what concrete was, but I never backed down from a challenge, and I started testing on that project. And I've been testing concrete ever since. So this is my 40th year in the concrete industry.
Wow. Well, you know concrete well, which is great. It's evolved a bit over the last 40 years, I'm sure. What have you been doing to, typically measure the the strength and durability of concrete?
What we've always done in the past, of course, when I started, uh, airports, concrete, highways, interstate system, we would do, beams.
Okay.
That's a 6 by 6 by generally 20-inch block of concrete. I mean, nowadays I couldn't even pick one of the doggone things up. But we started that there. Once I got into the ready mix business, we kind of got away from beams unless we were involved in an airport job or a highway project. But we were doing 6 by 12 cylinder molds.
Mm.
I don't know, probably 10 years before ACI actually accepted a 4 by 8. I started doing 4 by 8s and 6 by 12 side by side to compare the strengths of the two. And eventually I just went with the 4 by 8s. And we've been using 4 by 8s, or I've been using 4 by 8s for over 20 years now.
Yeah,
And that's of course the standard nowadays also.
yeah, which is nice. So nice improvements over 20 years. I mean, certainly you went from flex strength to compressive strength with the cylinders. And
Yes.
was that a good improvement in operations? I know that flex is about 10% of the total strength of compressive compared to compressive strength. That's got to be hard to have, look at minor details and differences as it cures.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you're using a cylinder, especially the 4 by 8s, they're just so much easier to make, to cure, to handle. I mean, in the concrete business, what we do on the QC side is vital to what we sell to the end user.
Yeah.
I mean, we are very concerned. I mean, we sell strength primarily. Uh, in our business, we always say concrete cracks, but of course, you try to control that crack. But what we guarantee is the strength of our concrete, and that's a big part of our quality control, quality assurance program.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I think we find really interesting is that you're certified in so many different states and at different levels as well. Um, is there a lot of variance in those requirements state to state by the DOTs?
Well, I mean, no matter where you go, concrete is concrete.
Hmm.
It does vary using different materials. Uh, the different states you get certified in, all their tests are a little bit different, some a little bit more complicated than others.
Hmm.
But it just seemed to me like when I was younger, the companies I worked for would send me to these states thinking they were going to do work in them.
Uh-huh.
And some we did, some we didn't. But I kind of considered myself a professional test taker, you know.
Yeah.
But every state's a little bit different as far as what they're qualified to do. I mean, but like I said, concrete's concrete. Whether you're going to Pennsylvania or Tennessee or Kentucky, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Now, are you responsible for, do you make the cylinders, you personally, or do you have a team that do cylinders, or is there a third party that makes those for you?
Well, I used to do them. I used to do everything by myself.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Southern Concrete is a small family-owned business. When we got started here, I did everything. I did quality control, quality assurance, submittals. But as we have grown through the years, I now have a small team that helps. Of course, I still make cylinders from time to time. Uh, but we go out on job sites. We make cylinders in our lab, of course, when we're doing trial batches. We'll go out on projects, commercial, industrial, even residential. We like to track our cylinders, make sure the mixes that we're sending out meet the required strength.
Hmm.
So we stay real busy doing that. So we do a lot of tracking. We do a lot of in-house testing, a lot of TDOT work down here. We stay busy for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Now you're one of our first users of the Rebel sensor. You had used and you do use maturity sensors as well. Um, uh, how do you like using sensors compared to doing cylinder breaks?
Well, where we're at right now, Joe, we are in a testing phase. The way I got interested in the Wavelogix sensor is we had looked at other sensors that you had to calibrate them, and every time you used a different mix, you had to recalibrate that sensor, and it was a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I discovered the Wavelogix sensor, it was a self-calibrating sensor, and that really intrigued me. You know, how in the world does this thing work? And I'll tell you a little story here, Joe. We were doing a project a couple years ago, 2, 3 years ago, out on I-40, going through Jackson, Tennessee here. I found out through TDOT that they had put a Wavelogix sensor in some of our concrete.
Oh,
Well, first thing I'm wanting to know, why didn't somebody tell us about this?
uh,
Then I started digging a little deeper with TDOT, and I wanted to find out who put that sensor in the concrete. So of course, TDOT tells me it was UT Knoxville. So I started digging a little bit, and I got a hold of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville's civil engineering department.
mhm.
Well, of course, they didn't have a clue what I was talking about. So then I got back with TDOT and I said, I want to know who authorized putting that sensor in TDOT concrete. You know, you guys got to know something. So finally, they told me it was Purdue University, and that's how I worked on getting hooked up with Wavelogix. As a matter of fact, I tried calling you, Joe.
Oh, no
That didn't
kidding.
work out so well.
And and as the story goes, I never answered the phone, right?
Well, that's the way the story goes. So I mean, I didn't stop. I found Dr. Lou and Lou's email address, and I shot Dr. Lou an email, and she got back with me in about 15 minutes later. So I really take my hat off to Dr. Lou. She
That's
was on top of it.
very responsive. We always say if you can't get a hold of me, call Dr. Lou.
Yeah, she might not like that. She's busy.
That's funny. So
Joe's better at his email now.
that's right. They get down on me for that one. That's why we have a great sales team. So, you've been deploying the sensors. Is it an easy process? Kind of walk us through how you're using them. What do you do with I know you've just been in the testing phase, but um, let's tell the audience what it's like an experience from a user.
Well, as far as a user, the sensor itself is very easy to use. I mean, it's a plastic rubber circle type thing. You put it right on the sub base. It's got a cord coming out of it. You plug a data sensor into it. We have had issues where the cord gets in the way of the finishing operation. I mean, these finishers out here, they have no idea what that cord is coming out of their
Yeah.
slab. But when we started here, we started on our at our batch plant here in Jackson,
Okay.
and we were testing a lot of slag mixes.
Okay.
And I don't know that the Wavelogix sensor had dealt with those particular mixes. We were testing 20, 35, 50% slag mixes.
Yeah.
What we found at that time, and of course this is early on, it seemed like the sensor was reading quite a bit higher than what our cylinders were telling us.
Okay.
So that's the way we got into the testing program with Wavelogix. We weren't really satisfied with the results we were seeing. So we got with Wavelogix, and they agreed to get into a testing program with us.
Mhm.
And we have been testing. We started in November of 24, and we've tested probably until about April of this year. Henry, the gentleman I've been dealing with, he came out with a cylinder sensor, and I kind of gave him a hard time when that first came out, because I told Henry, I said, well, Henry, this thing, I don't know why anybody would buy this thing, because I can do this by myself. But after I used the cylinder sensor, which what that does, it's in a 6x12 cylinder mold, and you can put the sensor right down into the mold, and you fill the mold up like you were making a cylinder. And that's how you get your readings. Well, the cord comes out of the cylinder rather than out of the slab, and you take that variable away where nobody can bother that sensor
Right.
except us. So, our cylinders are left on site in a controlled conditions for the first 24 to 48 hours. Well, we could grab that cylinder sensor and get it back in our lab where we knew for a fact that it was no longer disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually we've got a project in Baymonette, Alabama, industrial project.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went down there and took some of those cylinder sensors
Mm-hmm.
and tested some of that concrete down there, and let them get their initial set of 24 to 48 hours. And I picked those cylinders up and put them in the back seat of my pickup truck and carried them back to our lab in Jackson, Tennessee.
Oh, great.
And we got pretty good results off that. I mean, as we have tested the Wavelogix sensor, it keeps getting better and better and better. And that leads us to the project we're going to do with Tennessee Department of Transportation. We've got some high early concrete that we're going to pour in West Tennessee, and Wavelogix has stepped up to the plate to be part of this program with TDOT. And what I want to do is develop a standard deviation between the cylinders that we make and the Wavelogix sensors.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal of this project, in my mind, is to get the Tennessee Department of Transportation to write these sensors into their specification.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're not going to accept sensor for acceptance testing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they will accept it for early form removal,
Mm-hmm.
possibly even loading a bridge deck.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, when it comes down to a pay item, they want to see that actual cylinder break.
Yeah.
But if we can show them that the standard deviation of the cylinder sensor is just as good as the standard deviation of a compression test,
Mm-hmm.
why would they not accept this?
Yeah. That's great. Well, you're one of our best sales guys, Ross. I gotta hand to you. Thank you for not being on the payroll, though. That's great.
I always tell my guys I couldn't be a concrete salesman because I know what it costs to produce a yard of concrete.
Yeah.
So if I was trying to sell concrete, my price would be way too high.
Yeah. So it's as you kind of indicated, our system has the sensor that gets buried in the concrete or might be in the cylinder sensor that is plugged into a data logger, and that data logger has a cellular radio in it, so it connects up automatically to the web and our dashboard. So you end up getting strength curves and strength in real time right on your phone or at your computer. You don't have to go back out to the website, to the job site to get your data. It was probably even giving you data. It was bouncing around in your backseat of your truck as you were coming, because that just stays connected. How's the use of the dashboard helped you? Do you enjoy seeing real-time strength data and watching the curve grow?
Absolutely, Joe. The dashboard on your phone or on your computer. The dashboard is fabulous. You're some I guess you're a main competitor. We put some of their sensors in on job sites, and you have to be right there on top of the sensor in order to pick up a reading of what that sensor is telling you. And you know, West Tennessee, we have projects all over West Tennessee, so we could be 30, 40, 50 miles away from that sensor where we can't get real-time data from it. But with the Wavelogix system, no matter where that sensor has been, we can get live readings of what that concrete is doing instantaneously.
Yeah.
And the dashboard is fabulous.
Yeah, that's great. And also multiple people can be looking at the dashboard. So
Absolutely,
it's
yes.
not like one individual with their phone out there. Everybody could be seeing it. Your customer could be seeing it. You could be seeing it. So that makes a lot of sense. And we pride ourselves in trying to make it a simple, and usable and user-friendly interface. So thanks for those kind words. Also, if you put multiple sensors on the site, then you can see all those sensors as well and kind of correlate them. But based on your feedback and other customer and users, we continue to upgrade the user interface. We have a philosophy in our organization that we try to be customer facing. We want to take your ideas and input them, not create them ourselves and tell you this is the way you're going to use it. So we love getting the feedback, and we love quickly innovating those ideas into the dashboards, and all of our ideas have come from our customers. The cylinder sensor that you mentioned had come from a customer who said, can't I want to have something outside the structure I can move around and take to the lab. So thanks for bringing that up. I am curious, you are in the ready mix industry, and typically you make the concrete per somebody's design, their mix design, you supply it to them, or maybe you come up with a mix design that will work to their particular requirements, which is what the ready mix industry does, and the service that they provide. But there's always this possibility that what you deliver, the contractor screws up on you. How does
Absolutely.
that, in terms of a QC thing, that's got to be a nightmare. What do you kind of do in those situations to guarantee that the contractor or the placement is not affecting your kind of mix?
Well, what we've done in the past, Joe, uh, of course, we try to get our drivers to write water added on their tickets
Hmm.
before they leave the project. Uh, what we'll do when we go out on site many times, we'll make cylinders and test the concrete as it's delivered,
Hmm.
and then the finisher will say add 50 gallons of water. Okay, then we'll test that concrete after the 50 gallons of water is added.
Okay.
We'll come back later, and if happens to be a problem on that project,
Mhm.
we can show the contractor why they have that problem.
Gotcha.
Uh, we try to avoid those situations, of course,
Sure.
but we're pretty good at working with the contractor. Over the last 20 years or 20 years plus of being with Southern Concrete, we used to have a lot of issues like that.
Mm.
I would address the finishers on residential slabs, on commercial slabs, exactly tell them what the addition of water is doing to concrete.
Hmm.
I mean, we've got admixtures nowadays that you can add to the concrete. If we design our mixes on a 4 or 5 inch slump. So if they take that slump up to 8 inches, of course it diminishes the mix. I
Hmm.
like to tell the finishers out there, I mean, if you're drinking a glass of tea and you drink half that glass and you fill that glass up with water now, do you really still have tea?
Yeah.
Well, of course you don't.
Right.
So, I mean, over the years, we've been able to get that across to a lot of our old finishers and even some of the younger ones nowadays.
Hmm.
If you want to make that concrete more workable or easier, to drag and to finish,
Mhm.
tell us you want a 6-inch slump, and we'll put in the admixture to get you to that 6-inch slump and maintain our water cement ratio. And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. It's about water cement ratio.
Mhm.
You know, we've got chemicals that we can increase slump without increasing the water cement ratio, and you're going to get a better product in the end.
Yeah.
So,
That's well, you really highlight kind of the function of a ready mix company. They go above and beyond, you understand the technology of what you're delivering and you're helping those probably don't really understand concrete,
that's
the
correct.
concrete that they're pouring, right?
That's
They're the
correct.
middle
Yes.
guys in between their customer and you are supplying it. So if they listen to you, they'll get some good service. That's
Well,
good.
I think they listen to me a little better nowadays, Joe, than they did 20, 30 years ago. I think the gray hair helps out with that a little bit.
That's great. Um, so we're seeing some big changes in the industry with concrete going from using, regular porcelain cement to almost, L1 is now or type 1L is the standard, right? I mean, you can't even get type 1 cement anymore without importing it from outside the country. Plus all the additives, there still is we believe that we see a push towards carbon neutrality or reducing the carbon footprint. So you're adding in a bunch of different additives and supplements that try and reduce the amount of cement in a mix to make it more carbon friendly. That's got to play havoc with your QC process and what's your overview and perspective of the whole concrete industry?
Well, just like you said, Joe, when I started in the business, we used a type 1, 2 cement. Back in those days, you could get a type 1, or you could get a type 2, a type 3, 4, 5.
Mhm.
Then they got to the point where we could only get a type 1, 2 cement. The
Mhm.
other cements were kind of specialty products that cost a lot of money. You could still get them, but they weren't readily available.
Mhm.
I think we've been using a type 1L cement for probably about 10 years now.
Mhm.
When I first started using type 1L, I didn't see a whole lot of difference,
Okay.
but the more we used it, the more difference I saw.
Mhm.
Uh, I'll give you an example. We've been working on a 6-hour mix for TDOT here in our lab.
Okay.
We put up some mixes. It was taking us 12 hours to make strength
Mhm.
on a 6-hour mix. Well, that's unacceptable. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm scratching my head and I looked back in my archives. I don't throw anything away, Joe. So I look back 15 years ago when we did that same 6-hour mix. We were TDOT's requirement for the 6-hour mix is 2,500 psi in 6 hours.
Okay.
Well, normally we would get over 3,000 pounds in 6 hours. I look
Mhm.
back 15 years ago, we were getting over 3,000, 32, 33, 3,400 pounds in 6 hours.
Okay.
Uh, Nowadays, it was taking us 12 hours to do this.
Wow.
So we've been in the lab, just did our final mixes yesterday, and using about 5 different chemicals,
Mhm.
we finally achieved our 2,500 pounds in 6 hours.
Wow.
We did 2 different mixes. Of course, they have accelerators in them. They
Mhm.
have slump stabilizers in them, strength enhancers.
Mhm.
Of course, it's an air and train mix, so you've got air and entrainment in it. But we were able to get TDOT's 2,500 psi in 5 hours.
Wow.
Now, I think the 1L cement, they're putting about 10% of lime back in that cement,
Uh-huh.
and that's all to try to reduce their carbons.
Mhm.
Well, now we've got to adjust and change for that 10% of limestone.
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, that's just like a supplemental cementitious material, but they're
Mhm.
actually putting it in the cement.
Yeah.
So as a ready mix producer, we've got to adjust and make it work with what we have.
Yeah.
But I'll also mention that we have found a supplier that is importing 1-2 cement, and we want to keep our our options open on possibly going to a 1-2 back to a 1-2 cement.
Mm.
Of
Okay.
course, economics has got a lot to do with that, but
Right.
maybe that I don't know how that would lean to the domestic cement suppliers.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
But I
interesting.
mean, something else that we've looked into as far as reducing our carbon footprint, we're running a lot of slag mixes nowadays.
Mhm.
We're testing with ternary blends, slag, fly ash, cement.
Mhm.
Uh, some of the different admixtures we use E5 internal cure. That
Okay.
is an excellent product. We started using that on a mobile project. I'm going to tell you 5 or 6 years ago, down in Dayton, Tennessee. That's in Southeast Tennessee. Uh, Joe was down there. I don't know if you know Joe,
I do. Yep. Joe Shutterly.
but
Yep.
yeah, Joe Shutterly. He was down there on that project. That was pretty early on with the E5 product. That's an excellent product. I mean, it works with all cements. It actually cures the concrete from the inside out. And that's another product that we're trying to get our customers to begin to use. Uh,
Great.
we do have issues with the 1L cement of cracking a little bit more
Hmm.
than the type 1-2 cement did. And the E5 product helps out with that a lot.
Great. Great. Well, a lot of great innovations coming, a lot of changes. It's gotta make your head almost swim, keeping up with all the different technologies and, and trying to maintain that. We're hoping that our sensor will be just another tool in your tool chest to help you monitor and manage all these different mix designs that are coming out and help you in a QC perspective to make sure that things are working the way you expect them to.
Well, I think concrete sensors they're the wave of the future. I mean, I can see down the road when we don't make cylinders anymore. Let's put these sensors in the slabs in whatever you're doing, and you can monitor it from your doggone living room,
Yeah. Yeah.
and see what your concrete's actually doing. And it's going to take a few years before that happens, but I can see it actually happening.
Mhm. Great. Well, as they say, from your mouth to God's ears. We we love that concept. As our slogan is "Break Free," we love to see us being freed from the tyranny of making cylinder breaks and beam breaks. So uh, Ross, again, I want to thank you for the hard work that you're doing and the work with us in collaboration to make a better product, the Rebel more stable and workable in all sorts of situations. We've continued to innovate, and a lot of that innovation has come from the work that you've done with us. So again, I want to say thank you before I forget. And with that, um, we're going to open up the floor to any questions and then wrap up from there. Sue, we have any questions in the hopper?
Well, I've got one for you, Ross. I was just wondering if you could go back and give your younger QC manager self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I always tell the younger guys when they come in, when you're working in the concrete business, concrete changes every day. And you have to be kind of like a shortstop on a baseball team. Concrete's like a wild animal. It'll bite you if you're not paying attention. Just like that shortstop gets a ground ball hit to him. If he's not on top of things, it'll get right by him. Uh, if there comes a time when you think you know everything there is to know about concrete, you have gotten too smart and you need to find another field because concrete changes every day. And if you don't stay on top of it, you'll get bit.
Just like life, right?
Absolutely.
And count on change.
Good words of wisdom.
That's awesome. Well, Ross, on behalf of Wavelogix, I'd also like to thank you very much for joining us today. And I'm glad you're from Kentucky, as I am as well. That's a nice thing to share in
Absolutely.
common with you. Love your horses in the background there. But I think that's a wrap for today. And thanks for sharing your insights. It was a real pleasure having you with us. And thanks to everyone else for joining our webinar. We hope you picked up some useful things listening to Joe and Ross today. And keep an eye on your inbox. We'll be sending the recording and slides your way soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we hope to see you again on Thursday, July 10th for our next webinar. And take care and thank you.
Thank you, Joe, Suzanne.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Sue.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.